Hi everybody, Hondo Carpenter from Spartan Nation along with the great Dan Murphy from ESPN. Thank you, Dan, for joining us.
Got it.
Always used to having you on the radio. Good to have you here in this format.
I'm better on the radio, I think.
No, you're not. You do a great job. Here at the beautiful High Cathedral of the Spartan Nation, Spartan Stadium, we just got done talking to several players and coaches. And Dan, as we look ahead to 2017, I think there's a lot of consternation. A lot of people are like, 3-9. But if your expectations are realistic, which I think is a bowl game, maybe up to 8 wins, then I think you got a lot of reasons to be encouraged. Am I wrong?
Sure. I mean, right now everything's positive, right? They've got a lot of chances to move forward. There's still a lot of question marks, I guess, but they can get back to bowl game contention, winning 7-8 games. They have a schedule where it's manageable to do that, especially getting a few wins under their belt in September, which I think would be important for a young team, especially after all they've been through, not even on the field, but also off the field, to get some confidence, to make sure that all this kind of positive momentum and togetherness and culture that they've been talking about building here during the summer and getting back to the way things used to be, if that produces some early wins for them, then it can kind of jump off into a lot more confidence from there.
Let's talk about some positives for a moment. Let's start on the defense. I think underrated are Raekwon Williams and Mike Panasiuk, the starting tackles. Agree or disagree?
That's a great duo right there, definitely. I think the other group that probably gets talked about a lot, but is as deep as probably anyone in the Big Ten, is the running backs group. You got 3 guys there that are really talented, capable of being a top running back in a lot of places, and as long as they can get it figured out in front of them, those guys have a chance to be a really physical, pounding, the type of group that can win games for you.
Again, I'm Hondo Carpenter, Spartan Nation. Dan Murphy from ESPN. You can see his little Twitter handle right here. Yeah, go follow the guy on Twitter. He's worth it. Let's talk about some concerning areas. I got a few. Defensive end. It's not that there isn't talent at defensive end. There's unproven or inexperience, and that's dangerous in the Big Ten.
Right, and they need to figure out how to get to the quarterback. 126th out of 128 in sacks last year. I think there's a pretty obvious correlation between sacking the quarterback and getting wins, and that was a big thing from last year. They moved Mark Snyder over there, who will be a help. Just having a guy there to help with defensive ends specifically and teach them things and work with them as individuals, as you've got a lot of young guys who aren't really proven, I think is a smart move and will help them a lot. And they need to find the bodies, and they need to figure out everybody's individual skill and strength and be able to make the most out of that.
I think the biggest concerns on offense, there are 2. The first is when you get outside of running back, all the other positions there's talent, other than like a Brian Allen, of course, but a ton of inexperience. Again, not a lack of talent, a lot of inexperience on offense at tight end, at wide receiver, at offensive line. Your thoughts?
Sure, yeah. I mean, they've got bodies there. They've been recruiting as well as they ever have under Mark D'Antonio for the past 3 or 4 years now, right? So it's whether or not those guys are going to be ready to step up and take over as young guys, and who's going to set the example and set the lead for how to get there for them. My
other question to you, Dan, comes on offense. Do you agree with my premise? If this team's going to reach expectations of 6 to 8 wins, which I think are realistic, do you think they're going to have to outscore people? I do.
Yeah, to a certain degree. In some of those games, they're at least going to have to hang with people, because to get to 6, 7, 8 wins, they're going to have to beat some pretty good Big Ten teams to get there. They, some of the Minnesotas or the Wisconsin, not Wisconsin, but some of those upper tier Big Ten teams in order to get there. And those teams are going to score points even against a good defense. So I think you got to have Brian Lewerke throwing the ball well. He's got to be able to help you win games as much as manage games a little bit, and you've got to be able to score points in this league now.
So here's my question. I think they have talent. They've certainly got a lot of talented wide receivers, but inexperience. This is a team that was told by 2 SEC head coaches how to beat Alabama. You have to open the playbook. You can't run it up the middle. Teams are going to stack the box. They didn't listen in a Final Four. Will they get the hint this year? Do you have confidence D'Antonio will turn to Dave Warner and say, put your foot on the gas, go score points?
Well, he has to, right? I mean, they've gotten to a point where he's incredibly loyal to his coaches, and that has helped him in a lot of ways. But those coaches have to be able to change what they want to do and rethink things and look at what went wrong. And it seems like they've done that. Of course, everybody says that every summer, so we'll see. But, I mean, I don't know that they have to get crazy and run 5 wides and throw the ball over the place. They just have to get creative in doing the things they do well and change looks up. You look at some teams that can run the ball and take advantage of all of those 3 running backs, do the best you can with them, but using them in different, interesting ways, not necessarily totally scrapping what you've been good at, but finding new ways to do it.
Last question, I'm going to put you on the spot. I give you free reign to change your opinion at ESPN as the season gets closer. But today, standing here today in the beginning of August, actually the first couple weeks of August, what's your prediction for Michigan State regular season next year?
Wins?
Yeah.
I'll say 6. They sneak back into a bowl game. I think the out-of-conference schedule, they should be able to pick up a few. Big Ten's going to be tough at certain points, especially like we talked about without see how that pass rush develops, I guess. But without a whole lot of confidence, I think 6 is probably a fair bar to set.
You watch him at ESPN. You can read him at ESPN.com. There's his little Twitter handle right there. Make sure you follow him. He's my good buddy, the great Dan Murphy from ESPN. Thanks, Dan.